Chapter 454, The Primal Chaos and Attacks. 1. Divine Realm, Drunken Immortal Restaurant Area. At the stone door the surrounding cultivators watched as the arrow shattered without any warning. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. In their perception, Hualing and the others did not have any true essence fluctuations. Then the arrow shot by Ting Yan shattered. Then the surrounding cultivators looked at Xiao Changtian beside Hualing with fear. Was it really as Hualing had said to Ting Yan through voice transmission, that this person was a senior with extraordinary strength? In that case the senior must have heard all the guesses they had about him. Thinking of this, some cultivators in the crowd could not help but slap their mouths. It was all his fault. Why did he say such nonsense? That senior's strength must have reached a level that they could not compare to. If they were to pursue the matter, no matter how many lives they had, they would not be able to live. Hualing looked at Xiao Changtian beside her with respect. After knowing that Xiao Changtian was the owner of the White Tiger, she was also looking forward to seeing how Xiao Changtian would fight. He did not expect senior's strength to be even more terrifying than he had imagined. He was so close to him that he could not sense any true essence fluctuations in his body. From the looks of it, senior was just like a mortal. At the same time, Ting Yan stood above the stone door and looked at the cultivators below, whispering. There was also the arrow that he had just disappeared into thin air. Impossible. How could such an expert appear in the Li Fire sect? Even if the Li Fire sect's ancestor personally made a move, it was impossible for him to not notice it. As for the person beside Hualing he had checked it over and over again. If he was really a peerless expert, why would he rely on a small sect like the Li Fire sect? As he thought about this, Ting Yan was also a little angry. He jumped up from the stone door and stopped in midair. Then he said angrily to Hualing and Xiao Changtan, "A mere mortal dares to play tricks. 10,000 arrows." As soon as he finished speaking, the true essence on Ting Yan's body also exploded, and the true essence on his body continuously surged out. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and then a few dark clouds slowly gathered. In the dark clouds, raindrops slowly emerged and condensed into arrows, aiming at Xiao Changtian and Hualing Xiao Changtian, who was below, was stunned when he heard Ting Yan's words. Then he was speechless. He had lost just to watch the show, so he had been shot. He even said that he was pretending to be a ghost and that he did not do anything. Wasn't this an injustice? If he wasn't immortal, Xiao Changtian would have beaten him up and talked to him. After he opened the path of invincibility, he would definitely find him and lecture him. Then, looking at the power that Ting Yan had created, Xiao Changtian slowly looked over at Hualing who was beside him. This power was much stronger than before. Artificial rain. However, judging from Hualing method of breaking the arrow just now, there shouldn't be any problem. When the surrounding cultivators saw Ting Yan attack angrily, they also sighed. This is the unique technique of the Pavilion of Raindrops. One wonder what effect it will have. It might not have been senior of the Exalted. As the Holy Maiden of the Li Fire sect, it's normal for Hualing to have divine artifacts on her. However, those divine artifacts are gone after being used once. This time we can see clearly if the Li Fire sect really has a senior. Hualing looked at Ting Yan in the sky and was not moved by his power. With senior's unfathomable strength, standing by his side gave him a sense of security. Seeing Hualing calm expression, Xiao Changtian was relieved. It seemed that Hualing would have no problem dealing with it. At the same time, on Xiao Changshan's shoulder, the Chaos Ant was looking at Ting Yan. "You're courting death." A majestic and unquestionable voice exploded in Ting Yan's mind. At this moment in Ting Yan's mind, a huge Chaos Ant stood in the air. The Chaos Ant had an ancient and desolate aura. The two antennae were glowing with a silver-white light. Around the two antennae, space would occasionally close and split open, looking extremely mysterious. In the mental world, Ting Yan looked at the Chaos Ant in front of him, his eyes already covered in fear. These were the Chaos Ants recorded in the ancestral records, one of the most ancient divine beasts. His two antennae grasped the most elusive spatial power in the world. Why would a divine beast like the Chaos Ant appear here? Ting Yan looked at the Chaos Ant in front of him and knelt down. "Senior Chaos Ant, I don't know what I've done to offend you. Please spare my dog life. I can do anything for Senior Chaos Ant in the future." Humph! The Chaos Ant looked at Ting Yan, who had lost all his dignity, and snorted coldly. A breath came out of the Chaos Ant's nostrils. Under the effect of his breathing, Ting Yan also felt his body continuously changing in various spaces. When his body stabilized, Ting Yan also felt a wave of dizziness. Then Ting Yan continued to kneel on the ground and said slowly to the Chaos Ant, "Senior, please calm down. Have you forgotten what you said about my master just now? How do you expect me to calm down? At this moment, the Chaos Ant finally responded to Ting Yen with a hint of anger in its voice. Hearing the Chaos Ant's words, Ting Yen also felt his head rumble. The master of Senior Chaos Ant? How was this possible? If he saw Senior Chaos Ant's master, he would have no time to curry favor with him. Why would she offend him? With this thought in mind, Ting Yen also cried to the Chaos Ant, Senior Chaos Ant, I really don't know when I mentioned your master. You just said that he was immortal. Do you want me to help you remember? At this moment, the Chaos Ant's antennae moved slightly. Ting Yen saw the space around him split open, and a terrifying spatial storm slowly formed in front of him. So it was that senior from earlier. Hearing the Chaos Ant's words, Ting Yen also felt despair in his heart. No wonder he couldn't sense Senior's aura just now. It turned out that the other party's strength was too much higher than his, and he had no way of detecting it at all. At this moment, Ting Yen looked at the spatial storm around him and crawled toward the Chaos Ant. Please give me a chance. I will definitely apologize to you. As he spoke, Ting Yen kept kowtowing to the Chaos Ant. The Chaos Ant looked at Ting Yen in front of it and slowly said to him, Then don't disappoint me. As soon as he finished speaking, Ting Yen saw the Chaos Ant in front of him slowly disappear. Following that, the space around him continued to open up. Everything returned to the divine world. Chapter 455. Senior, please forgive me. 1. Divine Realm, Drunken Immortal Restaurant. In front of the stone door in the eyes of the surrounding cultivators, Ting Yan's figure was motionless in midair. The arrows formed by the raindrops from the dark clouds above did not fall for a long time. Looking at the scene in the sky, a cultivator in the crowd slowly said, Look at Ting Yan in the air. Doesn't he look like that arrow? Hearing this cultivator's words, the surrounding cultivators nodded in agreement. The arrow just now also stopped in midair for a moment before exploding. They turned into pieces. Could it be that Ting Yan in front of him was going to fall down inexplicably like the arrow just now? The surrounding cultivators thought so and were shocked. Looking at Hua Ling beside Xiao Changtian, his eyes were filled with fear. If it was really as they had guessed, then it meant one thing. Xiao Changtian, who was beside Hua Ling was probably an unfathomable senior. At this moment, a cultivator looked up at the sky and pointed at Ting Yan. Look, Ting Yan fell. As the cultivator's voice fell, everyone saw Ting Yan whoosh in the air. His body fell to the ground. Bang! Ting Yan's body crashed into the ground from mid-air, creating a stone pit on the ground. Then everyone looked at Ting Yan who was on the ground. At this moment, Ting Yan who was on the ground, no longer had the dignified appearance from before. His entire body was covered in dust, and there were some bloodstains on his body. It seemed that the fall just now had hurt him quite a bit. Then everyone saw Ting Yan slowly stand up from the pit. Ting Yan stood up from the ground and shook his head. Then when he saw Xiao Changtian in front of him, Ting Yan did not dare to be negligent. He crawled to Xiao Changtian and knelt down in front of him. Senior Shermu, I was wrong just now. I want Dare to be a real person again. As he spoke, Ting Yan kowtowed to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he saw Ting Yan's expression. Then he understood and looked at Hua Ling beside him. It seemed that the Li Fire Sect senior had heard this fellow speak rudely to him just now. He had to take care of his own feelings. After defeating this guy, he would let him apologize to him. From the looks of it, this Li Fire Sect was not bad. At the very least, there was no problem with the character of the Saintess and those higher-ups who were more powerful. In this way, he would be more at ease when Fu Tian became their disciple in the future. However, logically speaking, although the Li Fire Sect took care of his feelings, it was not to the extent of asking this fellow to kowtow to him. After all, a cultivator kowtowing in front of a mortal. He was afraid that this was the only one in the cultivation world. Then Xiao Changtian saw Fu Tian beside him. He immediately understood. On the carriage, Xiao Changtian remembered Hua Ling telling him about it. It was very likely that Fu Tian would win the first place in the test of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. This senior from the Li Fire Sect would take care of his feelings so much. It was obvious that he had high hopes for Fu Tian. From the looks of it, the chances of entering the Li Fire Sect after Fu Tian were still very high. Thinking of this, Xiao Changtian couldn't help but smile. The surrounding cultivators looked at Ting Yan who was kowtowing to Xiao Changtian. Looking at Xiao Changtian, his eyes were full of respect and fear. Ting Yan was a well-known bully among them. They didn't expect him to be so humble in front of this senior. Some of the cultivators who had just called Xiao Changtian a mortal couldn't help but shiver. The strength of the sect they were in was not much different from that of the Pavilion of Raindrops. However, their status in the sect was far inferior to Ting Yan's. If Xiao Changtian really pursued them, they didn't even dare to think about their ending. The smile on Xiao Changshan's face looked like the smile of death to them. They looked at Xiao Changtian wanting to see how he would deal with this Ting Yan. Bah, bah, bah. Ting Yan knelt in front of Xiao Changtian. After which, he slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, please forgive me." Hearing Ting Yan's words, Xiao Changtian recovered from his thoughts. Looking at Ting Yan in front of him, Xiao Changtian saw that he wouldn't get up unless he forgave him. He also slowly said to Hualing "Miss Hualing you can handle this." After all, he was defeated by their Li Fire sect seniors and had even apologized to him. He still had to return it to her. Hualing was stunned when she heard Xiao Changshan's words. She wanted to see how Xiao Changtian would deal with Ting Yan. After all, Ting Yan's Pavilion of Raindrops was considered a great enemy to their Li Fire sect. He didn't expect Xiao Changtian to hand it over to him. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Hualing quickly walked over and slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "All right, senior." Hualing said to Xiao Changtian as she slowly walked towards Ting Yan. Seeing that Hualing had gone to deal with Ting Yan, Xiao Changtian pulled Fuqian back to the carriage. Xiao Changtian felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by so many cultivators. After Xiao Changtian brought Fuqian back to the carriage, Hualing stood in front of Ting Yan. The true essence in his hand slowly gathered and formed a fiery red rune in front of him. As soon as the flame rune appeared, it slowly approached Ting Yan's body. Ting Yan looked at the fire runes that were attacking him and did not resist at all. In his opinion, Xiao Chang was willing to hand him over to Hualing. It was already the greatest gift to him as long as it wasn't in Xiao Changshan's hands. Ting Yan believed that with the help of the Raindrop Pavilion's power, he would be able to escape from the Li Fire sect very quickly. Hualing flame rune slowly landed on Ting Yan's body, sealing his vital essence. At this time, Ting Yan was unable to use any trace of true essence on his body at all. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. After doing all this, Hualing looked at the surrounding cultivators and shouted at them, "What are you looking at? You can all leave." With the surrounding cultivators blocking her way, how could she bring Xiao Changtian to their territory? As soon as Hualing finished speaking, those cultivators naturally did not dare to stay any longer. They all tactfully left. He wanted to inform his sect that the Li Fire sect had an extraordinary senior. From now on, the Li Fire sect's strength would probably be far superior to theirs. Following that, wherever the Li Fire sect's carriage passed, the cultivators automatically cleared a path. Hualing brought Xiao Changtian and the others slowly towards their Li Fire sect residence. Chapter 456. There's no need for them to continue to exist. 1. Divine Realm Raindrop Pavilion. In a certain region of the Divine Realm, a tall residence stood on the ground. The sky above the mansion was covered with dark clouds, and not a single ray of sunlight could seep in. Moreover, there was a faint drizzle under the dark clouds. There was also a huge plaque above the main door of the house. There were 3 huge words written on it, Raindrop Pavilion. At this moment, in the main hall of the residence, a middle-aged man in dark green clothes sat on a chair. Beside him, a maid in a green floral dress was holding a cup of green tea. She slowly walked to his side and placed the teacup on the table beside the middle-aged man. At this moment, the middle-aged man slowly picked up the teacup on the table. After taking a sip, the middle-aged man slowly said to the old man who had walked in, "How is it? Is there any news about an and Yen He had sent Ting Yan and Ting Engshi to deal with the Li Fire sect. As the leader of a sect, he had not lowered his face to deal with a junior. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, the old man who had just walked in respectfully said to him, "Pavilion Master, Young Master and the others, they had probably fallen into the hands of the Li Fire sect." Bah! As soon as the old man finished speaking, the teacup in the middle-aged man's hand shattered into pieces. It exploded. At this moment, the maid who was standing beside the middle-aged man was also shocked. He quickly squatted on the ground and picked up the fragments. "What did you say? Didn't the news say that Hualing and the hotshot of the lower realm were on the carriage? How could Yen and the others not be able to kill his opponents?" The middle-aged man stood up from his seat and walked to the old man. "Pavilion Master, please calm down. According to our scouts, an expert seems to have appeared on the Li Fire sect's side. Moreover, that person hasn't even made a move yet, and young Lord Ting Yan has already been beaten to the ground." When the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops heard the old man's words, she frowned and faced the old man. An expert from the Li Fire sect appeared? Could it be that old fellow from the Li Fire sect was secretly following them? Looks like the Li Fire sect's ambition is not small. They think that they can ascend to the heavens just because they found a hot shot. As he thought this, the pavilion lord of the Pavilion of Raindrops said disdainfully. Then he waved his sleeve and slowly said to the old man, "Pass on my pavilion master's order. Everyone in the rain-listening pavilion is to leave the Li Fire sect and save the young master. Li Fire sect, you are courting death. Don't blame me." The Pavilion of Raindrops stood in front of the main hall's door and looked at the sky outside as it spoke slowly. Their Pavilion of Raindrops and the Li Fire sect had been fighting for so many years. It was time to find an opportunity to end it. This time, it became the excuse for the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops to start an all-out war. After all, he had to take revenge for stealing his son. The old man behind the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops looked at the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops in the main hall. She quickly lowered her head and slipped away from him. He was the chief butler of the Pavilion of Raindrops and had served the Pavilion Master for many years. Naturally, she knew what he was thinking at this moment. This was exactly how he wanted to kill someone. Soon, the mighty group from the Pavilion of Raindrops flew towards the direction of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. In the eyes of many cultivators, the cultivators of the Pavilion of Raindrops were sitting on powerful spirit ships in midair. On the spirit ship, the cultivators of the Pavilion of Raindrops were fully equipped. Have you heard? The Pavilion Master and young Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops have been captured by the Holy Maiden of the Li Fire sect. That's right. I heard that the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops flew into a rage out of humiliation and wanted to wage war against the Li Fire sect on the spot. However, I think this Raindrop Pavilion is undoubtedly an egg hitting a stone. Have you heard about the Li Fire sect? They recently hugged a senior's thigh. It is said that on that day, that senior stood there without any true essence flowing through his body and beat Ting Yen until he knelt down and begged for mercy. That strength is probably that of a god emperor or even the legendary god emperor. Looking at the mysterious boat of the Pavilion of Raindrops flying past in the sky, the cultivators below also whispered. At this moment, the cultivator in hemp clothes also felt someone pat his shoulder. Turning around, the hemp-robed cultivator saw that a few people had appeared behind him out of nowhere. In front of him, a man with ice-blue hair held his shoulder and said slowly to him, "Tell me what's going on with that Li Fire sect senior?" Sensing the immense force coming from his shoulder, the hemp-robed cultivator did not dare to be negligent. He quickly said to the man in front of him, "Milords, this lowly one has also heard rumors. It is said that the Li Fire sect only recently befriended that senior. Get to the point. What characteristics does that senior have?" The ice-blue-haired man tightened his grip on the hemp-robed cultivator as he spoke slowly. The hemp-robed cultivator felt that the force on his shoulder had increased by a little, and he hurriedly said with a sad face, "Senior, I remember now. That senior heard that he didn't seem to have any aura on his body. He looked like a mortal." The blue-haired man slowly let go of the sack-robed cultivator's shoulder. With a cold expression, she slowly said to him, "Watch your mouth." The linen-robed cultivator looked relieved when he was released by the ice-blue man. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Then she hurriedly left the ice-blue man's line of sight and ran to the side. After the linen-robed cultivator left, the ice-blue-haired man slowly walked to the side of another man. "Master, it seems that you are right. Senior went to the Drunken Immortal restaurant first." Upon hearing the words of the blue-haired man, Di Tian slowly nodded his head. They were none other than Di Tian, the Ice Empress, the Demon Empress, the May Empress, the Medicine Empress, and the Sword Empress from the Tianyuan continent. After Di Tian and the others heard about the news of the Heavenly Gates, they also wanted to look for Xiao Changtian and listen to his suggestions. Through Mu Jiahuang and the others, Di Tian found out that Xiao Changtian had brought Fuqian to the Li Fire sect of the Divine World. Only then did Di Tian and the others hurriedly rush over, staring into the distance. It seems that Senior has long noticed that something is wrong with this matter. At this moment, the Ice Emperor slowly spoke to Di Tian. "I heard from those cultivators that those cultivators who just flew over seem to be going to find trouble with Senior. Yes, since we've bumped into them, there's no need for them to continue existing." Di Tian stared at the direction the spirit ship was heading in as he spoke to the people in the surroundings. After that, Di Tian brought the May Empress and the others along as they transformed into a streak of light. He chased after them in the direction of the Pavilion of Raindrops. Chapter 457, Returning to the Stone Gate. 1. Divine Realm, Drunken Immortal Restaurant District. Hualing brought Xiao Changtian to their Li Fire sect's exclusive area. He also brought Xiao Changtian and the others to the best room here. At this moment in the room of the attic, Hualing Er's expression was a little solemn as she slowly walked in from the door. When she saw the table, she brought him over. "Senior, I received news that the entire Pavilion of Raindrops is coming over, and they want to see you." Hualing Er had not expected that the Pavilion of Raindrops would mobilize the entire sect to come here. When she received the news, she had already sent a message to her sect for help. However, it was probably too late. At this moment, Hualing Er naturally ran over to listen to Xiao Changshan's suggestion. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard Hualing Er's words. What was this raindrop pavilion? He had never even heard of it. Why did she come to see him? Xiao Changtian remembered that he had come to the world of cultivators, but he shouldn't have had any dealings with any cultivation sections. He couldn't figure it out. Xiao Changtian thought for a while and shook his head. At this moment, Hualing Er saw Xiao Changtian shaking his head and felt nervous. In fact, she didn't dare to tell Xiao Changtian about her. She was also afraid that the Pavilion of Raindrops would provoke Xiao Changtian again and again. This senior felt that their Li Fire sect did not take good care of him and was dissatisfied with their Li Fire sect. Then Xiao Changshan's voice slowly entered Hualing Er's ears. "Miss Hualing Er, are you sure you're not mistaken?" After thinking for a while, Xiao Changtian felt that it was impossible for him to know the Pavilion of Raindrops. Why would he want to see me? Hualing Er was stunned when she heard Xiao Changshan's words. Then she shook her head. The Pavilion of Raindrops had a mighty presence, and countless cultivators saw it wherever it passed. There was no way it could be wrong. At this moment, a Li Fire sect cultivator walked in from outside the door. He slowly said to Hualing Er, "Saintess, the Tingwu soldiers of the Pavilion of Raindrops request an audience." Hualing Er's expression changed when she heard this name. Ting Wubbing was the butler of the Pavilion of Raindrops. It was said that his strength had also reached the Divine Lord level. He was the strongest person in the Raindrop Pavilion other than the Pavilion Master. Hualing Er heard her subordinates report and slowly looked at Xiao Changtian. Naturally, Xiao Changtian would have the final say on whether or not he wanted these weapons. Xiao Changtian felt Hualing Er's words and had some questions in his mind. Could it be that he really came to see me? As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian slowly said to Hualing Er, "Miss Hualing Er, please take me to see her." One Hualing Er nodded at Xiao Changtian. Then he brought Xiao Changtian outside. Outside the pavilion, Xiao Changtian saw an old man stroking his beard. He looked at Hualing Er beside him and said to himself, "Holy Maiden of the Li Fire sect, the person beside you must be a senior of your Li Fire sect, right?" Then Ting Wubbing cupped his fist at Xiao Changtian. "On the orders of the Pavilion Master, I came to ask Senior if you dare to Kamito the stone door for a chat." When he spoke, Ting Wubbing also had a hint of provocation. Xiao Changtian was also a little stunned when he heard what Wu Bing said. A chat at the stone gate? Why did this old man speak as if he was very familiar with him? Then Xiao Changtian also scanned the old man. He also remembered the time he went to find the heaven-suppressing spoon with Chuyiren. It was that old man Xiaoen's sect. Looking at this old man's Chinibu appearance, could it be that he came from his sect? That old man had heard that he was with such an awesome sect like the Li Fire sect. She wanted to come over and chat with him. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian felt that the possibility of this was getting higher and higher. Then he said slowly to the listening soldiers below, "Then let's have a chat at the stone door." Xiao Changtian also remembered the little bird he caught last time. After that, he left in a hurry and forgot about it. This time he could give the little bird to him. Hearing Xiao Changtian agree so readily, Wu Bing also said slowly to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, please." As he spoke, Ting Wubbing also made an inviting gesture to Xiao Changtian. At this moment, Xiao Changtian didn't hesitate and walked down. Seeing Xiao Changtian leave with the Tingwu soldiers, Hualing Er naturally followed. She also knew the intentions of the Pavilion of Raindrops. Senior had made the Pavilion of Raindrops sweep away their dignity at the stone gate. At this time, the Pavilion of Raindrops probably wanted to use the same method to re-establish the prestige of the Pavilion of Raindrops from the seniors. However, since Senior dared to go, he naturally had his own plans. Presumably, Senior already had a plan in mind and had a response to the arrival of the Pavilion of Raindrops. With this thought in mind, Hualing Er followed Xiao Changtian towards the stone door. Soon, under Wu Bing's lead, Xiao Changtian and the rest slowly arrived at the stone door. He came to the stone gate again. This time, Xiao Changtian stood on the stone gate and looked at the scenery below. It also had a unique charm. At this moment, Ting Wu also said to Xiao Changtian, "I heard that Senior defeated young master here and made young master kowtow to Senior." Standing beside Xiao Changtian, The Ting Wu Bing also looked down at the stone pit that had yet to be repaired. Defeat the young master? Kowtow. This fellow was talking about the one who was defeated by the Li Fire Sect senior a few days ago, right? As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian slowly said to Ting Wu Bing, "Oh, you're talking about that archer kid? He was indeed defeated. That kid is too spineless." Xiao Changtian sighed as he spoke. If that guy couldn't win, then so be it. He actually lost his dignity in front of everyone. How did he look like a cultivator? One look and he could tell that he was a coward. Even Fujian could not join such a sect. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Wu Bing's eyes were filled with anger. Was this senior mocking their rain-listening pavilion for their poor teaching? However, since Wu Bing hadn't figured out Xiao Changshan's strength yet, he didn't dare to make a move. According to their plan, he would first come over to stall Xiao Changtian and Huo Ling'er. Don't let them run away. Meanwhile, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops led the entire army of the Pavilion of Raindrops over. At that time they would attack together and kill Xiao Changtian here. They had re-established the prestige of the Pavilion of Raindrops. Then Ting Wubbing said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, do you think you can block the attack of the entire Raindrop Pavilion?" Xiao Changtian sighed in his heart when he heard Wu Bing's words. These old men were really competitive. However, he was the one fighting. It was the Li Fire Sect fighting. Moreover, I am also very clear about your Raindrop Pavilion's strength. He wondered if the sect formed by a few old men had a grade. Chapter 458. That's right. 1. Divine Realm, Drunken Immortal Restaurant. In front of the stone door, Xiao Changtian looked at Huo Ling'er beside him and then said to the Tingwu soldiers beside him, "There shouldn't be any problems." The Li Fire Sect that Huo Ling'er was in had Divine Lord powerhouses. What could a sect formed by an old man like you use to fight against others? Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Ting Wubbing snorted coldly. This person was actually so arrogant. One had to know that there was only him and the holy maiden of the Li Fire Sect here. When the pavilion master and the others arrived, she would have to fend off an entire sect by herself. Xiao Changtian felt helpless when he saw Ting Wubbing's cold snort. This old man was really competitive. Then Xiao Changtian said to Huo Ling'er, "Don't you agree, Miss Huo Ling'er?" Huo Ling'er heard Xiao Changshan's sudden question and quickly responded. "Yes, senior is right." Huo Ling'er didn't know Xiao Changshan's actual strength. However, Xiao Changtian was the master of the White Tiger, and the White Tiger was an ancient divine beast. Not to mention anything else, just the last time at the Li Fire Sect. Huo Ling'er vaguely heard her father, the Li Fire Sect master, say something. The three godly emperors of the demon race's main hall, whose name shook the demon beast world, were slapped to death by a divine monkey. One had to know that he was a godly emperor. And this Pavilion of Raindrops was about the same as their Li Fire Sect. The strongest expert in the sect was merely a divine lord. Forget about the White Tiger, they could not even defeat a godly emperor. Xiao Changtian saw that Huo Ling'er agreed with him, so he waved his hands at the soldier. The holy maiden of the Li Fire Sect had already said that she could beat up your Pavilion of Raindrops. Why don't you believe me? Don't tell me there's a divine lord in your sect? Wu Bing didn't say anything after seeing Xiao Changshan's expression. Now he only needed to wait for the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops to arrive. Moreover, looking at Xiao Changshan's appearance, there was a high chance that he would not escape. At the same time, in a valley on the way to the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. In the air, the spirit boats of the Pavilion of Raindrops streaked across the sky. Following that, the spirit ship in front of them slowly slowed down. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops felt that the speed of his spirit ship had slowed down. He also slowly said to the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops in front of him, "What's going on? Why are we stopping?" The voice of the Pavilion of Raindrops echoed on the spirit ship. Then, a disciple of the Pavilion of Raindrops slowly walked up. He slowly said to the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops, "Pavilion master, there is someone blocking the path ahead." "What?" The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops also stood up from his seat when he heard his disciples' report. He slowly walked towards the bow of the spirit ship. Along the way, the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops also slowly bowed to him and made way for him. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops stood at the bow of the ship. A few figures stood in the air. They were all wearing black cloaks and their appearances could not be seen clearly. Looking at the few people in front of him, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops also swept his gaze across them. He realized that he could not see through their auras. Interesting. Although the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops couldn't see through their auras, she was a little afraid. However, he had brought the entire sect out this time. The entire sect was present. As long as it was not a godly emperor personally coming, they were really not afraid of anything happening. Then, the pavilion lord of the Pavilion of Raindrops slowly said to the few people in front of him, "Fellow Taoists, what is the meaning of stopping the Pavilion of Raindrops from advancing?" The voice of the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops echoed in the air. Naturally, it attracted the cultivators who came and went. Those cultivators looked at the few black figures in front of the spirit boats of the Tingyu Pavilion and were also a little curious. Who are these people? How dare they block the cultivators of the Pavilion of Raindrops? Don't they know that the Pavilion of Raindrops is coming menacingly and is going to deal with the Li Fire sect? Sigh, we're going to see a few more corpses. Some of the cultivators who were passing by looked at the figures in the air and sighed. In their opinion, these few figures were probably going to suffer. So what if these people were powerful cultivators? In the end, there were fewer people. Unless a godly emperor came personally, how could they deal with the entire Pavilion of Raindrops? After all, once a sect's foundation was fully unleashed, it was not something that could be casually said. However, there were only a few known godly emperors in the divine world. Why would they use their identities to deal with a sect like the Pavilion of Raindrops? At this moment, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops, who was standing at the bow of the spirit ship, saw that the few figures in front of him had no intention of dodging. Then he waved his hand. "Disciples, listen up. Form the formation." The voice of the pavilion master of the Raindrop Pavilion sounded on the spirit ship. Then, the arrays of the spirit ships on the group of spirit ships of the Pavilion of Raindrops surged. Above them, a strong gust of wind blew. Dark clouds gathered, followed by raindrops floating in the air. Eroding rain. The pavilion master of the Raindrop Pavilion was standing at the front of the spirit boat, leading the entire formation. Then, the raindrops under the dark clouds were about to hit the few figures in front of them. Look, that's the unique technique of the Pavilion of Raindrops, the corrosive rain. That's right. It's said that the raindrops produced by this secret technique contain poison. Even if you can resist it, it will be very difficult to resist the corrosion of the poison. While the cultivators below were discussing, the few black figures in front also began to speak. At this moment, a voice slowly entered the ears of the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops. "I heard that you want to deal with that senior from the Li Fire sect?" Di Tian's words slowly rang out in the mind of the pavilion lord. Following that, the pavilion lord of the Pavilion of Raindrops also shouted coldly at the few figures in front of him. "So you're going to help the Li Fire sect? There's no need to be polite." "You're right. I'm going to deal with the Li Fire sect. As for that senior, he's just bluffing." The pavilion lord of the Raindrop Pavilion slowly spoke to Di Tian and the others. Following that, the true essence in his hands surged, and the poisonous rain in the sky also attacked Di Tian and the others. "That's right," Di Tian mumbled. After that, he didn't bother about the rain that was raining down from the sky. "Senior's enemy is our enemy. You don't have the right to see Senior." As Di Tian spoke, the raindrops also arrived above his head. And when the raindrops were only a step away from the emperor, the raindrops seemed to have been hit by an irresistible force and directly condensed into ice. After this raindrop condensed into ice, all the raindrops behind it also turned into ice drops one after another. At this moment, the cultivators below were all dumbfounded when they saw this change. At this moment, a voice sounded in everyone's minds. "After today, there won't be another Pavilion of Raindrops." Chapter 459, Destroying the Pavilion of Raindrops, 1. Divine Realm in the Sky Above a Valley. Di Tian's emotionless voice reverberated through the air. After that, the Sword Emperor who was standing behind Di Tian took the lead and walked over. The Sword Emperor's hands were filled with true qi as he pointed his two fingers upwards. Then the giant sword on his back trembled. A terrifying aura appeared between heaven and earth. Bang! The huge sword was unsheathed, bringing with it an invincible sharp aura that wreaked havoc in the surroundings. When the cultivators below saw the Sword Emperor, their expressions changed. Some of the weaker cultivators felt the pressure from the Sword Emperor. His body involuntarily leaned back. "This is a godly emperor, a godly emperor." Many cultivators looked at the Sword Emperor in the air and said in disbelief, "Heavens, when did the Pavilion of Raindrops offend the God Emperor? Could it be that senior? Look, another godly emperor has appeared?" As the sound of a cultivator's voice faded, everyone turned to look at Di Tian. Another black figure took a step forward, and purple flowers appeared around him. As soon as the purple flower appeared, It also attacked the spirit boats of the Pavilion of Raindrops. Bang, bang, bang. Under the attack of the purple flower, the spirit ship of the Pavilion of Raindrops could not withstand it for even a breath. With a bang it landed on the ground. Ah! Between heaven and earth, the miserable cries of the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops continued to ring out. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops saw that his attack had failed. Instead, he had lost more than half of his Pavilion of Raindrops disciples. Staring at Tian and the others, their hearts were slowly filled with fear. He did not know when he had provoked the godly emperor who he could not see usually. Looking at the way they attacked, they did not intend to give him a way out at all. As he thought of this, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops' expression darkened. When he saw the disciple of the Pavilion of Raindrops standing behind him with a terrified expression, he also stretched out his hand and aimed it at him. Then, with a swoosh, the disciple of the Pavilion of Raindrops was sucked into his hand. Cultivate you for so long, make your contribution for so long. As he spoke, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops looked at the disciple in his hand with a ferocious expression. Pavilion master, don't? When the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops saw the actions of the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops, they hurriedly begged for mercy. Go! The pavilion lord of the Raindrops Pavilion tossed the disciples in her hands towards Tian and the others. Then the true essence in his body surged, and his hand carried a strong true essence light. Pavilion master, don't. The true essence in the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops' hand flickered. Then the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops on the spirit ship discovered that their bodies had risen into the air. All of them flew towards the location of Tian and the others. Secret technique rain explosion. Staring at the many disciples of the Raindrop Pavilion flying towards Tian and the others, the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops had a ferocious expression as he made a hand gesture. Then bang. With a bang, those disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops felt the true essence in their bodies surge. His body involuntarily self-destructed. This pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops is truly a ruthless person. Tian stared at the disciples of the Raindrop Pavilion gathered before him. Although these disciples' cultivation levels were generally relatively weak, these cultivators self-destructed in front of him. It was indeed a little troublesome. At this moment, the Ice Emperor had already formed an ice shield in front of Tian. It blocked all the aftershocks of the attack. Bang, bang, bang. When the ice shield was formed, the disciples of the Pavilion of Raindrops also exploded. When the cultivators below saw this scene, their faces were filled with fear. This pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops is truly insane. That's right. I don't know how he could kill so many disciples. Below, a group of cultivators began to crusade against the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops. As the aftershock from the explosion of the disciples from the Pavilion of Raindrops dissipated, Tian and the others slowly appeared in the air once again. Not a scratch. One of the cultivators exclaimed involuntarily as he stared at Tian, who remained unaffected. These people are all godly emperors. A cultivator voiced out his guess. He stared at Tian and spoke in fear. Only a godly emperor could be unscathed from such a powerful explosion. At this moment, the demon emperor had also appeared before Tian. He was holding a figure in his hand. From his appearance, it was the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops. My lord, the person has been brought here. The devil emperor stared at the pavilion lord in his hands as he spoke to Tian. Tian stared at the pavilion lord as he slowly nodded his head. Bring him to senior, Tian calmly said. After that, he also flew into the distance. After Tian left, the Ice Emperor and the others didn't stay any longer. They slowly left with Tian. After Tian left, the cultivators below looked empty. There's no one left in the Raindrop Pavilion. A cultivator looked at the somewhat broken spirit boat of the Pavilion of Raindrops on the ground and muttered. The Pavilion of Raindrops wants to deal with that senior from the Lee Fire sect. It seems that the senior that the Lee Fire sect has just embraced is unfathomable. A cultivator looked at the scene in front of him and said with some fear. From now on, as long as that senior from the Lee Fire sect was around, he would consciously take a detour when he saw people from the Lee Fire sect. At the same time, at the stone door of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, the Tingwu soldiers kept looking forward. Looking at Xiao Changtian, who was standing beside him with a calm expression, his heart gradually became nervous. According to the time, the pavilion master and the others should have arrived by now. With this thought in mind, Ting Wubbing could not help but take out a jade pendant from his sleeve. He wanted to send a voice transmission to the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops. He gathered his true essence in his hand and injected it into the jade pendant. At this time Xiao Changtian said to Ting Wubbing, "Old man, you say that people come or come ill go." Xiao Changtian also came to the martial listening soldier's side and said to him slowly. After hearing Xiao Changshan's words, she saw his smile. Ting Wubbing felt that something was wrong and looked at the jade pendant in his hand. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops did not reply to him at all. Could there be an accident? Xiao Changtian saw that Ao didn't respond, so he decided to go back. He couldn't be crazy with this old man here. At this moment, Di Tian and the others slowly walked up from below the stone door. Upon seeing Xiao Changtian, Di Tian and the Ice Emperor behind him slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior." Di Tian? Upon seeing Di Tian, Xiao Changtian also felt some joy. He didn't expect to see Di Tian here. However, it wasn't hard to understand. Di Tian was also considered half a cultivator. It was normal for him to be able to come here. When Ting Wubbing saw the person in the hands of the Ice Emperor, his expression changed drastically. Chapter 460. They're all a little stupid, so they came here to look for them. 1. Divine Realm. On the stone door of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, when Ting Wubbing saw the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops in the Ice Emperor's hands, he broke out in cold sweat. Pavilion Master. Wu Bing could not help but say. At this moment, the Pavilion Lord of the Pavilion of Raindrops had already fainted. How could he notice someone calling him? On the other hand, when the Ice Emperor heard someone call the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops, he also looked at the martial listening soldier. Sensing the Ice Emperor's sharp gaze, the Tingwu soldier felt a wave of fear in his heart. Xiao Changtian and Di Tian were chatting when they heard the voice of Ting Wubbing. He slowly walked towards the Ice Emperor. "What's wrong?" Xiao Changtian looked at Wu Bing and said with a smile. Seeing Xiao Changshan's smile, Ting Wubbing understood something. No wonder he had been so calm ever since he entered the stone door. It turned out that everything was within his expectations. If that was the case, then the entire Pavilion of Raindrops. When Wu Bing thought of this, he looked at Xiao Changtian with some fear in his eyes. Their Pavilion of Raindrops should never have offended this senior. Now that the Pavilion Master was in their hands, it seemed that he could not do anything by himself. As he thought of this, the listening soldier felt a sense of powerlessness. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also saw the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops in the Ice Emperor's hand. He said to him slowly, "Ice Emperor, what is this?" When the Ice Emperor heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also threw the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops to the ground. He said slowly to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, I met a thief on the way, but I've already subdued him." Xiao Changtian nodded slowly after hearing the Ice Emperor's explanation. So it was a thief on the road. However, it was understandable. Even a powerful sect like the Li Fire sect had people thinking about it. Let alone Di Tian, who had just entered the sect, a small cultivator. It seemed that killing and snatching treasures often happened among immortal cultivators. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian waved his hand at the Ice Emperor. "In that case, you have to deal with him well," Xiao Changtian said slowly to the Ice Emperor. Then he came to Hualing Er's side and said to her, "Miss Hualing Er, these are my friends. Is there any problem with them staying with us?" Upon seeing Di Tian and the others, Xiao Changtian also knew that they shouldn't have any lodgings. Thinking back to when they were in Dayang Town, Di Tian was still busy with money. When Hualing Er saw the Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops being carried by the Ice Emperor, her expression was a little dull. The Pavilion Master of the Pavilion of Raindrops, who was on the same level as their Li Fire sect master, was actually being held in someone else's hands. Moreover, he looked half dead. Didn't the Pavilion of Raindrops say that they wanted to use the entire sect's strength to beat Senior? From the looks of it, the Pavilion of Raindrops was probably finished in the future. Hualing Er looked at Xiao Changtian with reverence. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, he quickly replied, "Of course there's no problem, Senior." At this moment, Senior was still taking care of her feelings. It seemed that he still valued their Li Fire sect. They had to serve Senior well. Following that, Hualing Er made an inviting gesture to Xiao Changtian and Di Tian. "Please follow me." Hualing Er's sweet voice rang in everyone's ears. Xiao Changtian looked at Hualing Er and smiled. Miss Hualing Er was the saintess of a powerful sect. However, it seemed that he was still very friendly to the disadvantaged groups like them. If Fujian were to be under their tutelage, it would definitely not be wrong. Di Tian glanced at the Ice Emperor when he saw Xiao Changtian leaving with Hualing Er. Then he followed Xiao Changtian to the pavilion of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. After everyone left, the Ice Emperor looked at the martial listening soldiers and the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops in front of him and condensed true essence in his hands. Sensing the power of the Ice Emperor's hand, the martial listening soldier knelt on the ground in fear. "Senior, please spare me. I'm willing to follow you." The Ice Emperor condensed an ice spike in her hand and ignored the martial listening soldier in front of her. Their figures flashed past in front of him. Then Ting Wubbing and the pavilion master of the Pavilion of Raindrops slowly landed on the ground. After doing all this, the Ice Emperor's figure flashed and flew towards the direction of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. From this moment on, the Raindrop Pavilion would cease to exist. At this moment he arrived at the pavilion, and after Hua Linger had arranged for Xiao Changtian and Di Tian to settle down, he was finally done with his business. He also left Xiao Changshan's room. From Di Tian and the others she could sense an aura that caused her to feel fear. Without Xiao Changshan's permission, Hua Linger didn't dare to stay in his room. In the room, Xiao Changtian smiled when he saw Hua Linger leave. This Miss Hua Linger is quite reasonable. Usually Hua Linger would come to his room and chat with him for a while before leaving. But today when he saw Di Tian and the others arrive, he automatically retreated. Seems like he wanted to leave some space for himself to chat with Di Tian. As expected of a cultivator, his observation was really sharp. Di Tian saw Hua Linger leaving. He then slowly spoke to Xiao Changtian. "Senior, you know the Li Fire sect?" Xiao Changtian seemed to be very satisfied with Hua Linger. Di Tian was also more cautious. He remembered the Li Fire sect in his heart. This was a sect that was related to the seniors. He had to be careful in the future. Xiao Changtian shook his head when he heard Di Tian's words. "We only knew each other for a few days." "Oh right, Di Tian, why did you come to the Drunken Immortal in this time?" Looking at Di Tian, Xiao Chang asked slowly. This Drunken Immortal restaurant was a place where the Li Fire sect tested the hot shots. From what he knew, Di Tian's talent was only ordinary. Otherwise, why would he fall off the kite when they first met? Upon hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Di Tian also hesitated for a moment. He had come to the Divine Realm because of the news of the Heavenly Gates and the Golden Emperor appearing in the Divine Realm. The main reason was to find out why the Metal Emperor had gone to the Heavenly Gates. Also, what exactly was this Gate of Heaven? However, Senior should also know about this. As he thought of this in his heart, Di Tian also slowly spoke to Xiao Changtian. "Senior, I'm here to look for my servant." "Did you find a servant?" Xiao Changtian started when he heard Di Tian's words. "Is your servant an immortal cultivator? How does his strength compare to yours?" Xiao Changtian had heard from Hua Linger that all the people who came here were immortal cultivators. Could it be that Di Tian's servant was an immortal cultivator? When Di Tian heard Xiao Changshan's words, he slowly replied, "Senior, this servant is inferior to me. No matter how strong the Metal Emperor was, it was impossible for him to surpass him, who had recovered to his peak." When Xiao Changtian heard Di Tian's words, he also understood. This Di Tian was just a small cultivator who had entered the first level of the Heaven's Path, and the servant was inferior to him. It seemed that he was at most a half-step cultivator. He was probably similar to the one who used the sword. They were both a little Chinibu, so they came here to look for him. Chapter 461, Stairway to Heaven 1, Divine Realm. In the pavilion of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, Xiao Changtian stared at Di Tian before him as he slowly spoke. The Li Fire sect that Hua Linger is from is also a faction that is even stronger than the Great Sun sect. The Li Fire sect was so powerful that there should be quite a number of disciples in the sect. Xiao Changtian had also heard about that senior. Some powerful cultivators in the cultivation world could cover a radius of several miles as long as they released their spiritual sense. Nothing could escape his senses. When Di Tian heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also felt a little confused. When he came here, he was puzzled as to why Xiao Changtian was so close to the Li Fire sect. Also, now that he was here to find the Metal Emperor, what was the use of the Li Fire sect? At most, he couldn't even be considered cannon fodder. What was the meaning behind Senior's words? Di Tian's head spun, unable to understand what was going on. As he thought of this in his heart, Di Tian also slowly spoke to Xiao Changtian. "Senior, may I know why you are looking for the Li Fire sect?" Di Tian couldn't understand and wanted to ask Xiao Changtian. When Xiao Changtian heard Di Tian's words, he also pointed at Fuqian, who was cultivating outside the room. "I brought Fuqian here to be my disciple." Di Tian followed Xiao Changshan's finger and looked out, only to see Fuqian outside. His expression was also filled with shock. This Fuqian's strength, even Di Tian himself didn't dare to say that he was a match for him. Since Senior said this, could it be that there was some old monster in the Lee Fire sect? No, that wasn't right. Senior came to the divine realm to deal with the Heaven's Gate this time. He wanted his disciple to take him as a master and use the Lee Fire sect to hide his identity and strength. As he thought of this in his heart, Di Tian finally understood Xiao Changshan's motive for doing so. Then he looked at Xiao Changtian, who was planning everything. That must be the case. He had to cooperate with Senior. Perhaps with Senior's help, he might really be able to find out what was going on between the Metal Emperor and the Heaven's Gate. Before he met Xiao Changtian, Di Tian didn't have much confidence in his heart. After all, no matter what, the Heavenly Gates was rumored to be related to the human realm upon heavens. If he brought the Ice Emperor and the others, he might not be able to find out the reason. After that, Xiao Changtian also slowly spoke to Di Tian. Di Tian, Fuqian is going to participate in the competition of the Drunken Immortal in tomorrow. Di Tian could be considered a cultivator after all. If he saw something he didn't understand, he could ask for advice. When Di Tian heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also smiled at him. Listen to Senior. Tomorrow we'll have to see Fuqian's performance. When Xiao Changtian heard Di Tian's words, he also smiled at him. Since Di Tian agreed to go with him, then things would be easier. On the second day, Xiao Changtian and Di Tian slowly walked towards the Drunken Immortal restaurant under Hualing Air's lead. Walking on the street, Xiao Changtian and the others slowly came to the front of this tall building. Senior, this is the token of our Lee Fire sect. According to the rules of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, you have to wait there. Hualing Er pointed at the square in front of the tall building. Looking at the square in front of the tall building, Xiao Changtian also saw a stone path between the square and the tall building. There were some scattered stones on it. Then Xiao Changtian said to Fuqian, Fuqian, since Miss Hualing Er has said so, you can go to the square and wait. Looking at the deserted plaza, Xiao Changtian knew that they had arrived early. Then Xiao Changtian slowly said to Hualing Er, Miss Hualing Er, where are we going? As soon as Xiao Changtian finished speaking, boom, boom, boom. A golden stairway suddenly appeared in front of them. White clouds floated on both sides of the stairway, making it look like an immortal stairway. Di Tian stood behind Xiao Changtian. When the stairway appeared, he also looked up into the sky. His eyes narrowed slightly. He could tell that this heavenly stairway was not simple. As for the Ice Emperor and the others behind Di Tian, their expressions were filled with wariness when they saw the ladder that had suddenly appeared. At this moment, Xiao Changtian looked at the ladder in front of him and Hualing Er beside him. The methods of this immortal cultivator were of a high level, but no one knew where this ladder led to. Then Xiao Changtian didn't think much and walked up the ladder. Hualing Er saw Xiao Changtian walking up the ladder, and her face was a little dazed. When Xiao Changtian asked her, she wanted to say that their Lee Fire sect had an exclusive spot around the square. He did not expect a stairway to heaven to suddenly appear in the sky. This method should have been created by Senior. It was Hualing Er's first time seeing this ladder. She looked at Xiao Changtian, who had already climbed up the ladder. He quickly followed. Di Tian and the others exchanged glances before following behind Xiao Changtian. Since Senior has climbed up this ladder, there shouldn't be any problems with Senior around. At the same time, in the sky above the Drunken Immortal restaurant, a floating island stood in the middle of the island. There was a small pavilion. The divine eye slowly sat on a stone chair. It looked at the bronze mirror in front of it, and no one knew what it was thinking. Letting a mortal scout the way, interesting. At this moment, a guard in golden armor also came to the side of the divine eye. Divine Eye Elder, they're coming up. The divine eye did not respond to the guard's words. In the bronze mirror in front of him, Xiao Changtian and the others were climbing the sky stairs. Looking at the bronze mirror in front of him, Divine Eye waved his hand. Don't stop them. Let them come here. That stairway just now was deliberately put down by the Divine Eye. He had already been in the air above the Drunken Immortal Inn for a few days, waiting for Di Tian's arrival. This Di Tian had the luck of the divine realm on him. Compared to the other lower realms, his luck was the most important. Hence, the moment Di Tian appeared, the Divine Eye immediately attacked. He also wanted to see what level Di Tian would reach after he reincarnated. He didn't expect a mortal to be the Pathfinder. It seemed that he was confident that he would not attack him. At this moment, Xiao Changtian was walking at the front of the stairway. The things that this immortal cultivator had created looked very impressive. However, if there was a flaw, it would be too unfriendly to mortals. What kind of heavenly stairs were these? Those immortal cultivators would definitely fly up in one step. As a mortal, he had no choice. He didn't know how many stairs he had to walk before he reached the end. Xiao Changtian turned around and saw Di Tian and Huo Ling following behind him. It seemed that they were also taking care of the feelings of a mortal like him. Otherwise they would have gone in the morning. Thinking of this, Xiao Changtian smiled at Huo Ling and Di Tian. Chapter 462. Confrontation in the Pavilion 1. God World, Drunken Immortal Restaurant Stairway. Xiao Changtian walked at the front of the stairway. Under his lead, Di Tian and the others slowly arrived at the island. Xiao Changtian also saw the scenery on the island. The Li Fire sect was worthy of being a major faction. They had actually created such an immortal realm behind the heavenly stairs. In front of Xiao Changtian was a white ocean, and there was a faint gas rising from it. It was simply a paradise on earth. Then Di Tian, Huo Ling and the others arrived above the island. Staring at the scenery before him, Di Tian had a look of wariness on his face. The density of the spiritual energy here was not inferior to the divine court at its peak at all. It was even worse. Huo Ling came to the island and looked around in surprise. Here she felt that the true essence in her body was much smoother. Even his own realm showed signs of breaking through under the effect of this world. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also saw a small pavilion in front of him. There seemed to be someone sitting in the pavilion. That was probably the place Huo Ling had arranged for everyone to watch. After that, Xiao Changtian slowly spoke to Di Tian and the others. Let's go over. Xiao Changtian looked at the white clouds under his feet and was a little surprised at first. He would stand up like this and not fall down directly. Then Xiao Changtian also looked at the map behind him. No, he couldn't let Miss Huo Ling look down on him. That might have a huge impact on Fuxian's entry into the Li Fire sect. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian also stretched out his calf and slowly stepped on the cloud in front of him. After taking a few steps, he realized that there was no difference from the path on the ground. He quickly walked towards the small pavilion. Di Tian and the others saw how calm Xiao Chang was and quickly followed after him. Senior's footsteps were so steady. It seemed that everything was under Senior's control. There was nothing wrong with following Senior. Very swiftly, Xiao Changtian, Di Tian and the others also slowly arrived outside the small pavilion. Outside the pavilion, there were 2 guards in golden armor holding 2 halberds. They blocked the path of Xiao Changtian and the others. The Ice Emperor and the Sword Emperor narrowed their eyes when they saw the 2 guards' actions. He looked like he was ready to make a move at any time. Let them come over. The Divine Eye's voice slowly came from the small pavilion. Then the 2 golden-armored guards put away their halberds. Xiao Changtian saw the figure of the God Eye in the pavilion and walked over slowly. Looking at this back, this should be a senior in the Li Fire sect. Xiao Changtian thought so and slowly walked over. When he arrived in front of the Divine Eye, there was only 1 seat on the side of the Divine Eye. Xiao Changtian also glanced at Huo Ling behind him. Huo Ling didn't know what Xiao Changtian meant. At this moment, the Divine Eye spoke again. You're here. The Divine Eyes turned around, staring at Di Tian. At this moment, Xiao Changqing finally saw the true face of the God's Eye. Wow, a multi-eyed monster? When Xiao Changtian saw the face of the Divine Eye, he was slightly shocked. Why did this old man have so many pairs of eyes on his face, even more than Erlang Xin? This was the cultivation technique of the cultivation world. When Di Tian saw the Divine Eye looking at him, his true essence also started to circulate slowly within his body. Be prepared to deal with any unexpected situations. The Divine Eye gave him a very dangerous feeling. When the Divine Eye saw Di Tian speaking, it pointed to the seat beside it. Why, aren't you coming over? Xiao Changtian looked at the Divine Eye and didn't say anything. This old man was a man of few words. Who knew who he was talking to? He was probably talking to his holy maiden. This was just a small mortal. If the others did not make a move, it would not be good for him to be the first to go over, right? At this moment, Di Tian also glanced at Xiao Changtian. After that, he slowly spoke to Xiao Changtian. Senior, please sit. Xiao Changtian heard Di Tian pointing at the seats beside him as he spoke. He was also stunned. What was this Di Tian saying? This old man would let a mortal like him sit beside him. If he didn't let his saintess sit, he should be a cultivator. Wasn't this just a form of entertainment for him? At this moment, Xiao Changtian also said to Huo Ling slowly, Miss Huo Ling, why don't you sit down? Huo Ling expression changed when she heard Xiao Changshan's words. With so many big shots not seated, how could she, a mere holy maiden of the Li Fire sect, dare? Then Huo Ling waved her hand at Xiao Changtian and said slowly, Senior, you should sit. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard Huo Ling asking him to sit. Was his seat prepared for him? Looking at the old man beside him, he didn't seem to have any objections. It seemed that the Lee Fire sect was a good sect. It was taking care of the feelings of a mortal like him. After all, a mortal like him would get tired after fighting for a long time, but cultivators like them wouldn't. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly walked towards his seat. He watched as Di Tian and Hua Ling both let Xiao Changtian sit beside them. He snorted coldly in his heart. When you were at the stairway to heaven, you wanted to use this mortal to scout the path. But now that he was here, if he used the same trick again, it would be meaningless. As he thought about this, the 3 pairs of eyes of the divine eye also stared at Xiao Changtian. Fine, let me get rid of this mortal first. Let's see how you deal with it. His divine eyes couldn't sense any aura from Xiao Changtian. From his perspective, he was brought here by Di Tian to be cannon fodder. As he thought about this, his divine eyes looked at Xiao Changtian with a flash of inspiration. Then, with a swoosh, a yellow spiritual light shot towards Xiao Changtian. The divine eyes looked at Xiao Changtian and the corners of his mouth lifted into a smile. In his eyes, Xiao Changtian was undoubtedly a dead man. Although the yellow spiritual light was concealed, Di Tian and the others were still able to detect it. Upon seeing the divine eye actually acting against Xiao Changtian, Di Tian and the others stared at Xiao Changtian, wanting to see how he would react. Without Xiao Changshan's words, they didn't dare to attack. After all, the person sitting in front of them might be someone from the heavenly gates. Just as the yellow spiritual light was about to hit Xiao Changtian, the primal chaos ant on Xiao Changshan's back slowly extended its 2 antennae. Then, with a flash of silver light, the yellow spiritual light cast by the divine eye completely disappeared. It was as if he had never existed. At the same time, Xiao Changtian sat down on the chair. She looked at the divine eye beside her and smiled at him. It was the first time Xiao Changtian was sitting so close to such a big shot. It was impossible for him not to be nervous. Chapter 463, The Holy Dragon Dynasty, 1. Divine Realm, floating island above the drunken immortal restaurant. The divine eyes looked at Xiao Changtian, who sat down beside him. The 3 pairs of eyes looked at Xiao Changtian with narrowed eyes. His strength was already at the peak of the God Emperor stage, similar to Di Tian at his peak. Although he did not use his full strength in the attack just now, he was still able to use his full strength. However, no matter what, it had reached the full strength of an ordinary godly emperor. Why was this mortal completely unaffected in front of him? Xiao Changtian felt the gaze of the divine eye and panicked. With so many pairs of eyes staring at him, Xiao Changtian felt like he was being watched from head to toe. Could this old man have any preferences? As Xiao Changtian thought about this, he cleared his voice and said to the divine eye beside him, "Senior, is there a problem?" The divine eye snorted coldly at Xiao Changshan's question. This mortal could be considered to have some capabilities. No wonder he was pushed to the front by Di Tian to fight against him. However, even Di Tian couldn't withstand his own scheme when the divine court was at its peak. Now he was just a mortal. How could he overturn the heavens? With this thought in mind, the divine eye slowly gathered its Zhenyuan in its palm and was about to attack Xiao Changtian. At this moment, Xiao Changtian said to the divine eye, "Senior, look at the many people in the square. Are these people here to participate in the test?" Xiao Changtian pointed at the image in the bronze mirror and smiled. While Xiao Changtian was talking, the 2 antennae of the chaos ant were also shaking. "If you want to deal with Master, watch how I tease you to death." When the chaos ant's antennae shook, the divine eye's body froze for a few moments. Just now, he felt as if the true essence in his body had disappeared into thin air. A lot of primeval essence was consumed in an instant. Ever since he started cultivating, this was the first time the divine eye had sensed such a situation. Looking at Xiao Changshan's eyes, a trace of fear appeared in the divine eye's eyes. This time around, Di Tian must have come prepared. With this thought in mind, the true essence in the divine eye's hands slowly dissipated. He said to the golden armored guard behind him, "Men, bring the guests to their seats." As soon as the divine eye finished speaking, a few golden guards moved a few chairs over. He placed it beside Xiao Changtian and the divine eye. After that, Di Tian and the others also slowly sat down. They sat beside Xiao Changtian and looked at him with respect. Based on their senses, Di Tian and the others naturally knew that the divine eye and Xiao Changtian had definitely engaged in a battle earlier. Looking at Xiao Changshan's calm appearance and the divine eyes asking them to sit on the seats, they could see that Xiao Changtian was not afraid of them. In this confrontation, this unknown figure should have suffered some losses. After Di Tian and the others took their seats, the divine eye pointed at the copper mirror in front of them and slowly spoke, Indeed, they are also here to participate in the test. Let's take a look together. As he spoke, the divine eye waved his hand, and the entire image of the copper mirror was magnified. He appeared in front of Xiao Changtian and the others. Xiao Changtian looked at the scene in front of him. In the scene, the square was no longer as deserted as when he had just arrived. On the contrary, the square in front of the Drunken Immortal Tower was filled with people. Square in front of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. At this moment, the square of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant was already filled with cultivators from all over the divine world. If the Drunken Immortal Restaurant's test could be held this year, it could be said to be one of the greatest events in the divine realm. Countless cultivators came to watch. However, most of the time he wanted to see if the legendary gate of heaven existed. At this moment, the cultivators standing on the square began to whisper. Look at that young man over there. That's the Wang family's faction. It's said that they're the overlords of the Jasper Immortal Continent. I didn't expect that they would also come to participate in this test. That's right. The Wang family's prodigy happened to be sent to the lower realm by the Wang family's head to train in the early years. I didn't expect to obtain a certain opportunity in the lower realm. Isn't that right? Everyone is saying that the heavens are blessing the Wang family's rise. The divorce papers looked at the men in the middle of the square with envy in their eyes. In the center of the square, a man in orange stood in the middle. There was a proud air between his brows. There were several cultivators guarding him. It looked like the moon was surrounded by stars. On his clothes there was also a large Wang character engraved. It was a symbol of the power he belonged to, the Jasper King family. It was rumored that the ancestor was already at the peak of the God Emperor realm and was about to step into the God Emperor realm. However, although the Wang clan is strong, don't forget that it's said that there are 3 other top forces participating this time. A cultivator saw the envious gazes of everyone and was the first to break the silence. What? A force even stronger than the Wang clan is participating? When those cultivators heard someone say this, they naturally became interested. Yes. Those Holy Land forces are usually the last to appear. It is said that they attach great importance to the experiment of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant this time. They are all going to the legendary heavenly gates to take a look. Heaven's Gate, isn't that an existence even more ancient than the legendary Divine Court? I don't know if it really exists. While these cultivators were discussing, an angry roar sounded between heaven and earth. Then everyone looked up and saw roars coming from the sky. Then a few white jade dragons appeared in everyone's vision. It's the white jade dragon of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty. Some of the cultivators below recognized the origins of these jade dragons and exclaimed. This white jade dragon was the exclusive mount of the royal family of the Holy Dragon Dynasty. At this moment, there was a carriage behind the 8 jade dragons in the air. A gentle and elegant man sat in the carriage. Looking at the cultivators below, his eyes were filled with the confidence of a superior. This is the 3rd prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty. I didn't expect the Sacred Dragon Dynasty to actually let him participate. It is said that the 3rd prince is the most talented of the princes of the Sacred Dragon Empire. Looks like the Sacred Dragon Empire still yearned for this legendary Heaven's Gate. Amidst the crowd's cheers, the Sacred Dragon Empire slowly landed at the center of the square. Wherever they passed by, the cultivators would naturally make space for them. 3rd prince, we have arrived at the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. After the Sacred Dragon Dynasty's carriage landed, the old servant also got off the carriage. He said respectfully to the 3rd prince. At this moment, the 3rd prince of the kingdom of the Sacred Dragon casually swept his gaze across the surroundings. The others haven't arrived yet. You're really arrogant. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3rd prince of the kingdom of the Sacred Dragon closed his eyes and rested on the carriage. Chapter 464, Gathering of Forces, 1. Divine Realm, the square in front of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. After the Sacred Dragon Empire's powerful arrival, the divorce papers on the square began to discuss. Look, isn't that the young master of the Azure Sword Pavilion? A voice slowly sounded among the group of cultivators. Then everyone followed the cultivator's finger and looked over. At this moment, a youth dressed in blue clothes was floating in the air, his hair falling to the back of his head. He still looked very handsome. After this cultivator appeared, the female cultivator on the square looked at him with shining eyes. Azure Peak, I love you. Azure Peak, you're so handsome. I want to have a baby with you. As they spoke, those female cultivators were even dancing with joy. Some of the male cultivators looked at the young master of Green Sword Pavilion, who was like a male celebrity, and slowly lowered their heads. He had no choice. After all, he had both strength and background. Looking at Azure Peak's appearance, it was simply every male cultivator's dream. At this moment, Azure Peak's figure slowly landed on the ground. Then he waved his hand at the surrounding cultivators. "Thank you, everyone. Thank you." At this moment, the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty slowly opened his eyes and looked at Azure Peak, who was surrounded by people. He slowly said, "Just like the rumors say, this person is quite popular. Unfortunately, he is not the one participating in this test. Otherwise, I would like to see what he would do in the Drunken Immortal restaurant." As he spoke, the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty also had a playful tone. At the same time, on Azure Peak's side, Azure Peak waved at the surrounding cultivators. "Thank you, everyone. However, our Azure Sword Pavilion is participating in the test this time. However, our Azure Sword Pavilion directly controls the evergreen world below." Azure Peak pointed at a space above him as he spoke. Then, from that space, cultivators stepped on their flying swords and slowly flew toward the location of the Green Peak. This was the entire force of the Green Sword Pavilion. It was also because Azure Peak did not like to walk with groups that he was the first to arrive. At this moment, a man with an imposing appearance and a carefree appearance slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The man had clearly never seen such a big scene before. He walked down from under the sword and came in front of Azure Peak. He bowed respectfully to him. "Young Master Azure Peak. Qing Yun, since the Pavilion Master bestowed you with this name, it means that Qingjian Pavilion has already treated you as one of their own. Since we are a family, there is no need for us to be so polite." Azure Peak looked at Qing Yun in front of him, and there was some admiration in his eyes. Some time ago, he had also received a mission from Green Sword Pavilion to go to the lower realm to find a hot shot. Coincidentally, there was a lower realm that believed in their Green Sword Pavilion. Azure Peak naturally made a trip to the Evergreen Realm and immediately discovered this hot shot, Qing Yun. The two of them regretted not meeting each other earlier. Azure Peak brought him to look for the Pavilion Master of Green Sword Pavilion on the spot. Under the operation of Azure Peak, the Green Sword Pavilion Master also bestowed the name of Green Cloud to this hotshot of Evergreen Field. He was accepted into the Green Sword Pavilion. Azure Peak also wanted Qing Yun to come with him to the Drunken Immortal restaurant this time. However, the elders in the pavilion kept saying that the Drunken Immortal restaurant was related to the 100-year-old plan of the Green Sword Pavilion. He couldn't be careless. In the end, he really couldn't say it. Qing Yun still came to the Drunken Immortal and under the protection of the elders of the Qing Sword Pavilion. At this time, Azure Peak and Qing Yun also began to talk. "Qing Yun, let me tell you, your strength is definitely the best among this group of people. Your chances of winning are very high. Just pay attention to these few people." While Azure Peak and Qing Yun were talking, another huge spirit ship floated over in the air. The spirit ship was wrapped in a stream of water and looked very gorgeous. When they saw the spirit ship appear, those cultivators began to sigh. "Isn't this the Flowing Cloud Sect's Flowing Light Spirit Ship? I didn't expect the Flowing Cloud Sect to participate in this test. It doesn't matter if I participate in the test or not. What's important is that I can see the fairy maiden of the Flowing Cloud Sect. It is said that there are all female cultivators in the Luyun sect, and all of them are very beautiful." Hearing this, all the cultivators present looked at the spirit ship in the air. On the Flowing Light Spirit Ship, there were women with beautiful figures standing on it. At the center of the spirit ship, a woman in blue was talking to a woman in white beside her. "Sister Bai Yi, this time we're counting on you. Don't lose to those men. Otherwise, Yi Hong Restaurant will be your home in the future." As she spoke, the blue-clothed woman stretched out her hand and brushed it across the woman's cheek. They had snatched this woman in white from the hands of other forces. Due to the special constitution of this woman in white, it was very suitable for their Flowing Cloud Sect. Therefore, after being seized by the Flowing Cloud Sect during this period of time, his strength had also increased rapidly under the cultivation of the Flowing Cloud Sect. He was representing the Flowing Cloud Sect to participate in the test of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. At this moment, the spirit ship of the Flowing Cloud Sect slowly stopped in midair. Some cultivators looked at the spirit ship above and sighed. "If I could become a disciple of the Flowing Cloud Sect, how wonderful would my life be? Come on, look at yourself. You're just a daydreamer." At this moment, a cultivator beside him also said mockingly. As the Flowing Cloud Sect and the Green Sword Pavilion slowly arrived, the cultivators participating in the Drunken Immortal restaurant were almost all present. At this moment, on the floating island above the Drunken Immortal restaurant, Looking at the people who had almost arrived, he slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "What do you think of this test?" This time, the Drunken Immortal Restaurant's plot involved the secrets of the Elysium. The Divine Eye also asked. He also wanted to know how much Xiao Changtian knew about their plan. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard the Divine Eye's words. This big shot wanted to ask for his opinion. It seemed like the Li Fire sect still valued a mortal like him. Since he wanted to say it himself, he would say it himself. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also told Hua Ling what he had talked about earlier. "I think Fu Qian will be able to take the lead this time." Through the bronze mirror, he had seen all kinds of gorgeous appearances of those cultivators. However, in Xiao Changshan's eyes, those were all flashy things. In the online novels he had read in his previous life, these were all cannon fodder. Coupled with what Hua Ling had said previously, now that he thought about it, those online novels in his previous life did make sense. Chapter 465. Someone walked in? _ floating island above the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. Hearing Xiao Changshan's answer, the Divine Eye smiled again. Fu Qian? It should be the name of a cultivator. It seemed that he had yet to see through the true intentions of the immortal Drunken Tower. Di Tian listened to the conversation between the Divine Eyes and Xiao Changtian, but he didn't say anything. Then, the Divine Eye slowly said to a guard in golden armor beside him, "Pass it down. It's time for the Drunken Immortal Restaurant to open." As he spoke, the Divine Eye slowly waved at a cultivator beside him. Then, another cultivator in golden armor slowly came to the Divine Eye and Xiao Changtian. The golden-armored cultivator held a chessboard in his hand and placed it on the table between Xiao Changtian and the Divine Eye. Seeing the chessboard, the Divine Eye turned to Xiao Changtian and said, "How about we play a game of chess?" In the eyes of the Divine Eye, Xiao Changshan's strength was really strange. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't understand him, he wouldn't have the mood to do anything else. As for Di Tian, his Divine Eyes could tell that his respect for Xiao Changtian wasn't faked. Seems like desolate Changtian was the reason why Di Tian dared to come up this time. With this thought in mind, the Divine Eye didn't care about Xiao Changshan's response. He picked up a black chess piece and placed it on the chessboard. Whoosh! The black piece landed on the chessboard and immediately emitted a wave of true essence fluctuations. This chessboard was not an ordinary chessboard. It was a treasure that the Divine Eye had taken from the gate of heaven. If they did not have the support of powerful strength, the people in the next round would be controlled by this chessboard. He became a chess slave on the chessboard. Xiao Changtian saw that the Divine Eye had asked someone to bring him a chessboard and even started to place his own pieces. He might be a laughingstock, but he didn't think he would lose to anyone in chess. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian also took out a white piece from the white chess pieces and slowly placed it on the chessboard. Whoosh! The white chess piece landed on the chessboard and immediately emitted a wave of true essence fluctuations on the chessboard. The Divine Eye saw Xiao Changtian casually holding the chess piece and smiled at him. This person was indeed not as simple as he looked on the surface. At the very least, he wouldn't be immortal. Behind Xiao Changtian and the Divine Eye, Di Tian and the others were looking at the chessboard on the Divine Eye and Xiao Changtian. They were also fully focused. This time it was not just about their fate. It was also a rare opportunity to comprehend the Tao. After all, the two people in front of them were both big shots. At this moment, in front of the square of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant, a majestic voice slowly sounded. Boom, boom, boom. The Drunken Immortal Restaurant let out a burst of noise, and then the door of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant slowly opened. The test of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant has begun. Everyone rely on your strength to ascend to the top. Accompanied by this illusory voice, it sounded in the world. On the square of the Drunken Immortals Restaurant, the other members of the Grand Central were also in an uproar. The Drunken Immortal Restaurant is open, it's open. Accompanied by the excited voices of the cultivators, those cultivators slowly instructed the hot shots they had brought from the lower realm. As long as you obtain a placing this time, our great sect will definitely bring all your relatives to the divine realm. We will take good care of your family. I hope you won't disappoint me. Under the waves of sound waves on the square, the hot shots of the lower realm slowly rushed into the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. Seeing that the Drunken Immortal Restaurant had already opened, the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty, who was sitting in the carriage, finally stood up. So this is the Drunken Immortal Restaurant that holds the secret to the heavenly gates? I'm really looking forward to it. In the eyes of the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty, the entire building of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant was glowing with golden light. When his spiritual sense probed over, he could not detect the situation inside at all. However, the feedback he received was excellent. His spiritual sense seemed to be extremely eager for everything in the Drunken Immortal restaurant. It could be said that this Drunken Immortal restaurant was different from any mystic realm he had encountered before. At least, he had never had such a desire for any secret realm before. Following that, the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Empire slowly said to the old man beside him, "Third eunuch, you'll go first." As soon as he finished speaking, the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty turned into a stream of light. With a whoosh, he flew towards the entrance of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. After the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Empire left, the third eunuch also spoke to the direction he had left. "Your Highness, this old servant is waiting for you." After the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty flew out, Azure Peak patted Qing Yun's shoulder. "Qing Yun, whether the Drunken Immortal restaurant can succeed this time depends on you." Hearing Azure Peak's words, Qing Yun also nodded at him. "Saint Child, don't worry. He'll go." Then a burst of true essence condensed in Qing Yun's hand. Then a long sword was born under Qing Yun's feet. Whoosh! Qing Yun stepped on his long sword and his figure turned into a stream of light as he flew towards the entrance of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. At the same time, the blue-clothed girl on the ship said to the girl beside her, "Lady in White, our Flowing Cloud sect will have to rely on you. Don't disappoint me." As she spoke, the girl in blue pushed the girl in white beside her. Then the white-clothed girl slowly said to the blue-clothed girl, "Saintess of the Flowing Cloud sect, remember your promise." Following that, Bai Yi's figure was like the wind, and with a whoosh, he flew towards the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Seeing the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty, Qing Yun and Bai Yi entered the Drunken Immortal restaurant. The cultivators who stayed on the square to watch also sighed. The Sacred Dragon Dynasty, the Green Sword Pavilion, and the Flowing Cloud sect are all geniuses when they find the hot shots. I'm afraid that the top spot in this test will fall into the hands of one of them. However, the only regret is that we can't find out the situation in this Drunken Immortal restaurant at all. While the cultivators were sighing, a person slowly walked past them. Did you see that? A hotshot actually walked in. At this moment, a cultivator in the square also noticed Fuqian walking. Fuqian looked at the Drunken Immortal in front of him and smacked his lips. This Drunken Immortal restaurant's test given by Master is not simple. The divorce papers on the square looked at Fuqian and rubbed their eyes in unison. Wow, there's really someone who walked there. This person is a hot shot? I don't believe it. Is this person a hot shot or is he pretending? Everyone else is flying over but he's walking slowly on the ground. Whether he's a chicken or a phoenix, well, no, once we see if he can enter the Drunken Immortal restaurant. The cultivators on the square looked at Fuqian. On the contrary, Fuqian had become their entertainment. Chapter 466. Entering the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. 1. Divine Realm. On the floating island above the Drunken Immortal Restaurant, Xiaochang Tian and the Divine Eye were waiting for the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty to enter the Drunken Immortal Inn. He also played a few rounds of chess. During the game, the two of them used their own killer moves and there was no clear winner. On the throne, the Divine Eyes were looking at the chessboard in front of them. Every time he wanted to finish off Xiaochang Tian, he would have to go back and forth. Xiaochang Tian was always able to use some unexpected moves to resolve his tricks. The Divine Eye was paying more and more attention to Xiaochang Tian. Xiaochang Tian and the Divine Eye were playing chess and they were also very happy. After coming to the Li Fire sect for so long, he, a mortal, did not know anything. Xiaochang Tian was naturally happy that someone was playing chess with him. However, a big shot like the Li Fire sect senior seemed to be obsessed with cultivation and had not learned much about chess. She was not even as good as Alpha in her own family. She had played chess with Alpha a lot in the yard. However, although Alpha was not as good as him, he could still find some fun for himself. This Li Fire sect senior was different. His chess moves were full of flaws. If he had not thought of giving in to him, this Li Fire sect senior would probably have lost 100 times already. At this moment, his Divine Eye was also pointing at the bronze mirror in front of him. Seeing Fuqian walking towards the Drunken Immortal Inn, he said to Xiaochang Tian slowly, "Fellow Taoist, what do you think of this child?" Xiaochang Tian also looked at the bronze mirror after hearing the Divine Eye's words. He had played a lot of chess just now, so he did not pay much attention to the situation in the bronze mirror. Wasn't the one walking on the ground Fuqian? The bronze mirror displayed the images of those cultivators flying. Xiaochang Tian also covered his forehead. Indeed, as Fuqian's master and immortal, he could not teach Fuqian any flying techniques. Compared to the other candidates, he had indeed delayed them a little. However, what did this Li Fire Sect senior mean by asking him how Fu Qian was? Could it be? Xiao Changtian seemed to have thought of something, and then he slowly replied to the divine eye, Senior, I think there must be a deeper meaning behind his actions. Why don't we wait and see? Why would this senior from the Li Fire Sect ask him this? He must be trying to say that Fu Qian did not know anything. Even if he was talented, he probably wouldn't be able to achieve much. As Fuxian's master, he naturally had to respond. When the divine eye heard Xiao Changshan's words, it smiled at him and said, It seems that fellow Taoist thinks highly of this person? Xiao Changtian didn't say anything. He picked up a white chess piece beside him and placed it down. At this time it was useless to say more. It was better to speak with facts. If you want to compare, I'm better at those few. As he spoke, his divine eyes also pointed at the third prince of the Sacred Dragon Dynasty, Bai Yi and Qing Yun in the bronze mirror. The three of them had the strongest luck among the group. The drunken immortal restaurant would slowly absorb the luck of the hot shots. These few hot shots had stronger luck and should be able to last longer. As for the kid who was walking on the ground, although the luck on his body was also a little strange. However, that was all. In the drunken immortal restaurant it would disappear. The divine eye saw that Xiao Changtian ignored him after he finished speaking. He also smiled, picked up the black piece in his hand and slowly placed it on the chessboard. As for Di Tian, he stared at Fu Qian in the bronze mirror before turning to the divine eye in front of him. He could not help but sneer in his heart. Through his observation up until now, he could basically confirm that this divine eye was someone from the Elysium. The legendary gate of heaven should really exist. Golden armor, guards and a small pavilion. Such a special eye cultivation technique. Connecting all these together, it was almost the same as the records of the divine court regarding the heaven gate. And the people from the heavenly gates actually didn't think highly of the disciple of their senior. This caused Di Tian to feel some disdain. Senior had always been calm and collected. Also, Di Tian had seen Xiao Changtian and Alpha play chess in the courtyard before. When they were playing chess, those moves were much stronger than now. Obviously, the senior had deliberately given it to this Heaven's Gate cultivator. Senior should have planned everything long ago, and senior's disciple should be the key. As he thought of this in his heart, Di Tian no longer felt that worried about this so-called Heaven's Gate. At this moment, in front of the drunken immortal inn, Fu Qian slowly walked over. Looking up at the tall building, Fu Qian still stepped into it. He saw that Fu Qian did not encounter any obstruction when he entered the drunken immortal restaurant. Those cultivators were also a little surprised. Could it be that the person walking was really a hot shot? At this moment, some cultivators felt their faces burning. Look at that kid. He doesn't even know how to fly. He'll be eliminated soon after entering. Right, I think this brother is right. That kid will come out in a sorry state soon. Fu Qian slowly entered the drunken immortal inn and looked at the scene inside. Fu Tian sighed and waved his hand in front of him. Condensing a trace of it on his hand, he saw something different appear in the true essence in his hand. Seeing the black substance mixed in his true yuan, Fu Tian smiled. This thing was probably the reason why his master brought him here to test him. That black thing was mixed in his true essence and did not seem to be harmful. In fact, it could even help him increase the density of his true essence. However, Fu Qian could still feel that he was absorbing something from his body. As for what exactly it was, Fu Qian still needed to continue probing. Then Fu Qian slowly flew into the sky. They were at the foot of a mountain. From the looks of it, on every level of the drunken immortal restaurant in the outside world, the mountain peak in this place represented the height of the mountain. On the road to the top of the mountain, there were different checkpoints waiting for him. At this time, Fu Qian also arrived at the first level's checkpoint. There, a group of hot shots who had just entered were gathered. There were a few golden armored puppets guarding the checkpoint. Those puppets didn't look like they were easy to defeat. Let me try first. In the crowd, a hot shot took out a fiery red saber from his waist and struck at the golden puppet. Bang! The fiery red broadsword hit the golden puppet's body and made a loud bang. Damn it, this golem is actually so tough. When the attack landed on the golden puppet, it did not hurt at all. The hot shot also cursed in his heart. The golden puppet seemed to have been activated after being hit by him. His body began to sway as he attacked the negative hot shot. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.